Hello and welcome. My name is Melissa Galasso, and I'm excited to be with you today to talk about a much awaited disclosure project coming out of the FASB and ASU 2021-10. Now, this is a project that has had many hiccups over the last, I'd say, 7 to 10 years that they've been working on this project. However, with COVID and all of the federal funding that has gone to entities, public entities, private companies, there has been a push to finish this project. So while there has been a project on the books for many years going through the normal cycle, it seemed to hit several hiccups along the way and constantly was put on hold. However, with all of these trillions of dollars of federal money out there, many of them going not to nonprofits and governments, but to for-profit entities, we really don't have any guidance for these entities in terms of recognition measurement or related to disclosures. And so as a result, instead of addressing recognition and measurement, because that wasn't on the docket, they had already started looking at what these disclosures could potentially look like. And so as a result, this is a disclosure project specifically for business entities. Nonprofits, right, they already have guidance around ASU 2018-08, they have some guidance in 958-605 regarding how we present this and how we measure this. It is our for-profit entities who are prohibited by ASU 2018-08 from actually applying that guidance. And so they have been applying it by analogy. And some entities have been using IAS, so the IFRS version, which does have a government assistance section. And so as a result, for those entities who are using either contribution guidance or government assistance guidance from the international standards, they are going to provide us some disclosures to give users insight regarding what those, what are we doing? So while they're not providing explicit recognition and measurement, which I do think will come with the agenda consultation project that they had out in this year. I think a lot of people were saying this diversity in practice is kind of getting, more difficult because, again, trillions of dollars all related to obviously the COVID-19 global pandemic. And so this standard, again, is, I think, a step in the right direction. I'm excited to see it finally issue, but I do think there'll be more guidance coming in the near future. So ASU 2021-10 is just disclosures by business entities about government assistance, and this was issued in November of 2021. And again, the background here is that we really don't have any, explicit recognition, measurement, or disclosure guidance around government assistance for business entities. And so because there's really no gap at all for government assistance, IFRS has an entire section in IAS 20 around government assistance, but we don't have anything in US GAAP. And so as a result, the goal here was to provide more comparable and transparent information to investors so they could understand it. So while they're not providing recognition and measurement, there will be disclosures about that recognition and measurement. And so the goal is to reduce diversity in practice by requiring disclosures about the types of assistance that these entities are getting, the accounting for the assistance. So even though they're not prescribing it, you have to describe it so that users would be able to say, okay, well, this is what was applied. Now I understand better how those numbers came to be. And if I disagree with it, right, I can have at least some insight there. And then the effect on the financial statements themselves. So that's really the background here. Now, again, this is targeted to business entities, which are all entities except not-for-profits who are in the scope of 958. Again, 958-605 provides a lot of guidance in this area already, and employee benefit plans. So whether you're in 960, which is a defined benefit pension plan, 962, which are defined contribution plans, or 965, which are health and welfare plans. Those are all scoped out. So this is for all other for-profit entities, whether you're public or private. And again, the key here is that you're accounting for the transaction with a government, because remember, if you go into 958-605, it says transactions from governments to business entities are scoped out at 958-605. So whether you're typically applying 958-605 by analogy, or you're applying another model like IAS 20. Now, you wouldn't apply this obviously to loan guidance because that's under topic 470. And again, we have recognition and measurement guidance. We have disclosure guidance related to loans. But if you were treating your PPP or your restaurant revitalization or your shuttered venue, right, all who went to entities that were for profit, then in that scenario, again, so long as you're applying a grant or contribution accounting model, either by analogy or by following the standards, again, so IAS 20 or 958-605, you are within the scope of this. So remember, IAS 20 is accounting for government grants and disclosures of government assistance that's required by IFRS. And 958-605 is for not-for-profit entities, right? Section 958. And then 605 is revenue recognition. So this is anytime we have a transaction with a government. And so when we're talking about government, it could be foreign, domestic, local, city, state, county, principality. It could also be the federal government. And again, this could be federal agencies. It could be independent agencies, commissions, right? So anytime it's a governmental entity and it's having a transfer of assets to a for-profit entity that is not a not-for-profit entity or an employee benefit plan, and they are applying either 958-605 or IAS 20, and they're applying either a grant or contribution model. So what do we do here? Well, the objective of the disclosure is to provide information that enables the user to understand what that was happening and assess the following. So the nature of the transactions, the related accounting policies used, and the effects of the transactions, and then any significant terms and conditions of the transactions. A lot of these came with conditions, right? How you spent the money was very much prescribed by the federal government for a lot of this federal funding that's out there for COVID-19. So we wanted to understand the nature of them. What accounting policy did you apply? Did you apply IFRS, IAS 20? Did you apply 958-605 by analogy? Or, what did you apply there? And then what were the significant terms and conditions? So the disclosures are going to be focused on, okay, what is the nature of the transaction? Was it cash? Was it another type of asset, right? So just a general description of the transaction and the form of assistance that was received. So there's going to be just a description there. And then what was the accounting policy that was used to account for it? Did you apply IFRS? Did you apply US GAAP? Did you do it by analogy? And then which line items in the balance sheet and income statement are affected? So, where is this being housed? Is this currently in deferred revenue? Is this in contribution revenue? Is it just in revenue? Is it other income? Right? There's a lot of different places it could be in terms of it, and how much, the amount applicable to each financial statement line item in the current period. So if it's not obvious from the financial statements, you're going to have what line item and what is the amount that's in that line item. You're also going to provide, as I said, significant terms and conditions, right? What's the duration or period of the agreement? What are the commitments made by both the reporting entity and the government? What does the government have to do if they are on the hook for anything? What are the provisions, if any, for recapture, including the conditions under which recapture would be allowed, right? So if you don't follow the rules, right, what can they do? And if there are any other contingencies. So again, not being prescriptive in terms of recognition and measurement, but providing a lot better disclosure so that the user can understand that. And again, ask questions if they feel necessary. Now, one thing to note is sometimes there is legal prohibition on some of these disclosures. And so again, depending on what it's being used for or what the intent is. And so if you have to omit certain information because you're legally prohibited from disclosing it, then you would have to disclose a description of the general nature of the information and indicate that obviously you've omitted disclosures because you're legally prohibited from actually making those disclosures. So you want to make sure that you're at least saying, hey, we have received money, but we're not allowed to tell you a lot about it. This is all I can tell you. So a pretty high level in terms of that. And so when is this going to be effective? Well, it is for annual periods. You'll notice it does not apply to interim reporting. It's just for annual periods beginning after December 15, 21. However, you can early adopt, and obviously with the volume of government assistance out there, I would expect there's going to be some early adoption because I think users really do want this information. And it can be applied either prospectively to any transaction within the scope of this that are reflected in the financial statements at the initial application, and then to any new transactions entered into after that date, so whatever's reflected and then going forward, or you can choose to do it retrospectively for comparative periods and kind of provide that guidance. So maybe you're halfway through a 5-year contract, you can choose to still provide information about the full item. So again, kind of excited to see this issue. This is a project that they've been working on for a long time. Multiple different groups have focused on this, so I'm glad to see it finally get issued. I do hope to see recognition and measurement guidance out there soon, but I do feel like this is an amazing step in the right direction. So that's a wrap on our most recent ASU 2021-10 on government assistance disclosures. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you on a future Nano Learning. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.